Good evening. A second highly infectious COVID variant that's overwhelmed India and is spreading in the UK has been found in Melbourne. The Delta strain is more transmissible than its Kappa cousin, blamed for our lockdown. It's infected 7 people so far, including the family who travelled to Jervis Bay, with no clue as to how, when or where it escaped into Australia. Mark Santomartino reports.
4 new cases, 3 with a disturbing twist. Infected by a COVID strain Victoria has never seen in the wild.
That sequencing has identified a new variant that is unrelated to all of the other cases in our cluster thus far in Melbourne.
That variant is named Delta, a mutation of coronavirus blamed for the majority of India's 300,000 deaths.
We don't have anything across Australia that matches.
And yet, that variant has been found in an infected family of 4 from West Melbourne who were holidaying in Jervis Bay from May 19 to May 24. They returned home and sent their children to North Melbourne Primary School for 3 days before lockdown, where it's believed the Delta strain has spread to another grade 5 student. They and their parents have now all tested positive.
We believe that one of the parents of that family of 4 is likely to be the index case of that cluster of 7 that we know about at this point in time.
What we don't know is where they were infected. The Delta variant has only been seen outside of hotel quarantine once in Australia, infecting Barbecue Man in New South Wales.
That was the Delta variant. So we have seen that, but very rarely in Australia.
Those cases aren't linked to this new cluster. Professors Paul Kelly and Brett Sutton tempering fears that more transmissible strains are also more deadly.
In fact, most of the people that have been picked up in Melbourne have been asymptomatic or mildly ill, so that's good news.
Kids don't need to be afraid here. We need to just do everything to make sure no further transmission occurs.
Some 300 close contacts linked to North Melbourne Primary School are already in isolation, and 70% of those have returned negative tests so far. Today's remaining 4th infection is the partner of a man from South Melbourne, loosely tied to the Port Melbourne cluster, which dropped 2 of its critical cases after both were declared false positives.
These false cases are rare, they do happen.
Exposure sites at Anglesea were slowly removed as a result, to the delight and frustration of locals who jumped into action.
There was a sense of relief, but that has turned to anger. So it's not only the businesses that have suffered financially, but many of our casual staff members.
You can't protect public health if you lose public trust.
Health officials doubling down on concerns about fleeting transmission.
We've got 8 examples of people getting positive coronavirus infections at 5 locations from people that they don't know.
So when I use the term beast, I'm trying to warn against complacency.
Not that the 50,000 Victorians who lined up for a test yesterday needed the reminder.
Every test is really important. It helps us build that picture because at some point, Brett has to make the judgment that says, are we confident that we've shut down all this change of transmission?
A decision on lockdown that shouldn't be impacted by the Delta strain.
It's not a question of anxiety, it's a question of being absolutely thorough.
If we can ease restrictions quicker, if we can go further, we always seek to do that.
Mark Santomartino, 9 News.
Construction of a purpose-built quarantine facility out of the CBD could begin within months, but exactly where remains a mystery. City residents have told Reid Butler they fear more leaks if the project isn't completed quickly.
The deal is done. Inner-city COVID hotels will be phased out in favour of Howard Springs-style quarantine camps.
I'm very, very pleased at this outcome.
That's because the Commonwealth will pick up the cheque for construction, but
the Victorian Government will meet the operational costs and will run the facility.
We need to make sure the state government running it is actually competent and up to the task. Otherwise, leaks can still occur and that will put all of us at risk.
we still don't know where the facility will be built or exactly how many returning travellers it will house. The state government wants the hub in Mickleham, 40 kilometres north of the CBD, but Avalon Airport is still on the table.
The Commonwealth hasn't indicated, and we have not yet landed on exactly which site, but either one will work.
Avalon has got all of the ready-made facilities as well in terms of it being an airport, and it's just straight into that facility.
It's welcome news for CBD residents like Michael Carrick.
It makes sense to have it out of the city.
He's sick of having hot hotels on his doorstep and waste and linen from infected guests stored in his building's car park, which is shared by the Novotel Ibis Quarantine Hotel in Little Lonsdale Street.
There is laundry facilities out the back there, Basically, I don't want to go anywhere near it now that I know about that.
The number of COVID-19 cases among returning travellers is slowly continuing to rise. A further 2 were identified in the past 24 hours. Tonight, there are just over 2,000 people in the city's quarantine hotels. The vast majority returned overseas travellers. 157 people are currently in health or complex care hotels, meaning they are suspected of having COVID-19 or require clinical supervision for other reasons. It will still be some time before that risk is moved from the heart of the city.
We would like to see construction start as quickly as possible.
It's hoped the facility could be operational by February next year. Now, a lot of things have to go right for that to happen, and a lot of decisions still need to be made, namely where this facility will be built. I understand right now there are 23 cases of COVID-19 within our existing hotel quarantine program. We just saw here about 5 minutes ago another potential case be transported via ambulance to the Hot Hotel on Flinders Lane. And with hundreds of new travellers coming in every single day, the government says it is a priority that this new facility is built and built quickly. Pete?
Reid Butler in the CBD. The Ring of Steel has been dumped, but police have issued a stern warning to drivers hoping to flee Melbourne this weekend. Crime reporter Lana Murphy tells us there'll be more officers in more locations to fine rule breakers.
The road out of Melbourne is far from a road out of lockdown.
Look at the licence here.
The message for those pushing the boundaries:
please don't bother.
With the state divided once more, Victoria Police is replacing what it concedes was an inefficient Ring of Steel.
Where'd you come from?
Port Melbourne.
With a more mobile operation. 450 officers will conduct random patrols every day. 200 will be stationed at pop-up checkpoints near the Greater Melbourne Fringe, while 250 will roam, focusing on tourist hotspots and back roads. Their vehicles will be fitted with number plate recognition technology to detect drivers outside their permitted area.
We are able to spread our resources further.
They'll check bus stops, train stations, public spaces and random businesses and respond to reported breaches. The Deputy Commissioner revealing dozens of mostly young people have been fined for gathering at house parties this week.
The vast majority of the community do a fantastic job in complying with directions. It's only the few that make it difficult for the many.
From midnight to 11 a.m. today, 400 vehicles were checked. Just one driver was in breach. The 27-year-old from the Wyndham City Council side of Little River was caught after visiting friends in Geelong and blowing .266 while behind the wheel.
Our focus is blatant, deliberate breaches of CHO.